Thanks, Lindsay, and welcome everyone to this morning's session. As I was explaining to some of the speakers earlier, my technical expertise begins and ends with sending a text message. So I'm about to try and share my presentation. If someone just puts a thumbs up, I'll know it's working. So bear with me. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah, excellent. Okay. Yes. Welcome to social enterprise, probably the most challenging and yet most rewarding business model you could possibly look at in your career. COVID has had some lots of negative consequences, but one of the positives, I think, is our awareness of locality and community has actually increased. And I think that's opened the door a little bit to the debate around social enterprise. And I want to revisit that a bit later in the slides. So I was mentioning social enterprise in terms of community and ethical business. There's a couple of things within social enterprise that guarantee that happens. The first is an asset lock. This basically makes sure that any income that's generated surplus to immediate operating costs are retained for use in the community. They also operate uniquely on a double bottom line, where there's both a social objective and a business objective. I didn't want to go into a lot of details around the different forms that it can take, but let's just say there's multiple forms, and the agencies have made small fortunes on providing advice on how you should structure your social enterprise, but it can take multiple forms. The most important thing about this slide is the bottom bit, and that's to do with reach of social enterprise. Most social enterprises, because they're trying to balance a social objective and a business objective, find that being a trading charity is the best model to incorporate multiple funding streams, but also have a look at who's actually being employed within social enterprise and the groups it's reaching out to. And we'll come back to this subject of reach a bit later. In terms of the difference between a corporate business model and a social enterprise model, if you looked at the operational side of things, you'd probably think they're much the same. But the key thing here in terms of that slide in front of you is relationships. The flow of wealth and income that comes into a social enterprise flows to a community. The relationship is with a community. Within the private sector, the relationship is with the investor. So basically the income and wealth and surpluses that are being generated in a social enterprise are being driven by and are targeted at a community, whereas the relationships within the private sector model are to do with investors. I said it was a complex model, and I explained that trading charity was the most likely outcome of all of this. There are multiple layers of activity within a social enterprise. The business one is the front end, if you like, in terms of the trading side of things, but that social objective, the outcome for a community, is core to activity. So that's the second layer. The third layer is to do with the way that the actual social enterprise operates, the reach that it has, the fact that it's involving community in the way in which it delivers its service. And community can mean either a physical location, or it can mean those who share a particular characteristic. But those three layers are crucial to understanding the difference between a business model in a traditional SME sense and a business model in a social enterprise sense. And we're going to come back to those three layers in a minute. I don't want to go into a lot of talk about definitions and how we explore those different structures, but suffice it to say that all those ideas about what a social enterprise is and the difference in structure between it and an SME are captured in a thing called the Social Enterprise Code. So what I've done here in my slides is give you a link to that code, but the crucial thing to get your head around is flow of wealth and income going out to a community in a social enterprise and being retained by investors in a private sector model. What does the sector look like in Scotland? There's over 6,000 social enterprises in Scotland, about 173 here in South Lanarkshire. They employ lots of people, 4.4 billion in turnover of trading income that's generated by the sector every year. But again, the crucial point here is about reach. Look at those bottom figures. The fact that it can reach out across gender, it can reach out across disability, and specifically this other point, that 70% of social enterprise operate in the 20% worst affected areas as far as economic deprivation is concerned. In other words, where there is social need, you will find social enterprise. Lots of examples of social enterprise here in Lanarkshire and their reach. I've just sort of highlighted a couple of the obvious ones. You can research this online at your leisure later on. But for example, there's those that reach out to those with disabilities, both physical and mental, those that reach out to the community in terms of climate change and trying to make a difference as far as basically recycling of bikes, of various products. But the point is not going to landfill and basically promoting a reuse, a more green agenda. So you've got this multiple, if you like, aspects of reach, both in terms of the type of demographic that are benefiting from the social enterprise activity, but also the reach in terms of the benefits to communities. And there's a lot to be proud about in terms of the local scenario as far as social enterprise development. We're not quite there in terms of encouraging more people, but I think this ethical business link is something that's been lost and something that we have to revisit and re-energize again. I was mentioning at the start the impact of COVID. Remember the three dimensions I was talking about, the entrepreneurial, the social, and the governance. This is some commentary, if you like, in terms of the impact on, is there still a good opportunity to create a social enterprise? The answer is yes, but under each of those streams, entrepreneurial, the advice is start small, make sure you have actually identified a real community need and that you're actually the sole, if you like, the sole person in that space addressing it. And that's really more to do with the second aspect, the social. What is a real social need? Have you actually done the groundwork to make sure that the community you intend to benefit will indeed benefit from your intervention? And the third, and this is another key unique of the social enterprise, is have you actually involved that beneficiary group in the design of what you intend to deliver? So there are still opportunities, even though COVID has a lot of negatives. The social enterprise model, and it's linked to ethical business, and it's linked to community as an opportunity here. And I think it's something that the FE sector should grab. And let me develop that a little bit. There's been some research done by the British Council on what the key differences, if you like, that we can make to encourage social enterprise in the future. Part of it is to do with the profile of the social enterprise as far as government and influence is concerned. Part of it's to do with funding, but also the actual practicality of running their business, of communicating with other social enterprises to learn from best practice. The offers of in-kind support, and I want to come back to that in a minute. What we're doing today, webinars, the chance to provide the operational managers in social enterprise the practical skills to try and deal with an online world. And the last one, which is most important and which is something University of West of Scotland have already taken active steps on, connecting volunteering interest with social enterprise. So what does this mean as far as you guys are concerned listening to this presentation? Absolutely, there's a need for your skills on online trading, different forms of business model, the whole thing around the digital world, especially people like myself who can barely get round Zoom. But I'm talking about people who actually want to move their trading model from a traditional model, if you like, to online trading. Where is that skill coming from? Where is that support coming from? The offer of in-kind support, what form could that research actually take? Well, it could be to do with new markets, new sectors, or different ways to diversify. But who's making that connection? And are we doing enough to encourage it? The volunteering side of things, absolutely. And I'm not just talking about volunteering at the coalface, if you like, in some of the operations. I'm talking about participation in boards. I'm talking about bringing the skills and expertise that students have and the energy they have into social enterprise operations itself. And back to my point about involving beneficiaries in the design, why shouldn't that expertise be there at the design phase as well? And this future business model adaptation is absolutely crucial. During COVID, something like 70% of traditional social enterprises had to change their business model to a more online one. And they have struggled to find that skill and expertise. You've got it, why not share it? Final point, if you like, is the power of a why. What community are you trying to benefit, if you like, trying to serve? Is it a real need in that community or not? Or are you imagining it as? Have you actually done the groundwork to find out what that community needs? More importantly, have you created a structure that allows that community to influence your decision-making, not at the coalface, not at volunteering, but actually how you deliver services? I love this quote at the end here around COVID creating more space, open space for different forms of business model. My argument this morning to you all is that this double bottom line business model should be the basis of our discussions around ethical business. So now is the time to talk about ethical business and impact in communities. And now is the time we should be talking about social enterprise. So you've heard enough from me, probably better hearing from someone who's actually taken that step.
Thanks, David. I'll now pass you over to Tuul, who's going to talk about his journey to creating a social enterprise.
Good morning, everyone. They call me Mr. T for short to make it easier for everyone to pronounce. Toyo meaning joy, happiness. I'm the fifth child of my mom. As an African, a male child is usually the king of the house. So I have 5 big sisters. So when I came out there, my mom was like, yeah, that's my joy, yeah. So she gave me the name Toyo. Talking about social enterprise, honestly, I never knew anything about it. Before, I thought business is profit and loss, going there, business. That's what I studied, business, hospitality management. So if business make profit, that's it. But after my graduation from Motherwell College in 2014, I got a job with Lanarkshire Council as a housing officer. I was working at various homeless units around South Lanarkshire, my favorite being Lindsay House in East Kilbride. I was there and I observed that the people in the building, they were really, really sad. It's a homeless unit and we are not doing anything to make them feel homely in that facility. So I approached my boss, then my then boss, I told him, I said, look, let's get something going for these guys, let's organize something. He asked me what, and I told him, okay, I can cook. Let's get them together, let's organize some, social evening things so they can eat and come together, get to know each other. It was like, okay, who's going to fund it? I said, well, I'll fund it. It's just a cook. He said, okay, let's go for it. And the first time we did it, they all came downstairs. We all made the meals together. We enjoyed it and they got to know each other. The guy in the other room got to speak with the other guy. They got to know each other's names and, the atmosphere in the building changed from that day. So my boss was like, okay, we can do this more often. We did it a few times and that was where it all began. The people from the Y project next door, they said we should come do the same thing. Then we went to the other houses around and yeah, we were cooking. But before now, myself, my wife, and a few friends, we started a little organization called Heart of Africa UK. The aim of that organization was to bring people together to create community cohesion between Africans and Scottish people, to create that sense of integration, to cancel that thought of us and them, because my little boy, he is a Scottish boy, but he's a black kid. He was born here and he grew up here, So we started out of Africa, UK in 2015, just with the motive of bringing people together. I never thought anything about any business ideas or anything. I was working, I was well paid, and we're just doing out of Africa on the side. But because of the food thing and the way they were calling me all over the place, they're enjoying the food. I got busy, so I didn't have time for my job. That was where I met Peter and Stuart from Voluntary Action South Lanarkshire. I told them about the problem I'm having. They said, well, you can make money out of this. I mean, you can stop your job and you can get a business out of it. I said, how? I'm just cooking for people with my own money. Then, I said, no, you can get funding for this. You can, they explained the whole thing to me. I never knew about social entrepreneurship. Sound, interesting. I was like, okay, it's going to be difficult at the start. They said, no, just go for it. Since you have the passion for it, your food is good. I said, okay. They explained everything to me, how it's being done. And, I had the desire to change something. I know we all have that desire to do something. We all have the desire to do something. We all have passion for something, and as business-minded people, you must not pay the taxes directly to the government. To me, I think social entrepreneurship is the best way to do business, because you are dealing directly with your local people. You are employing them. You know what they need. They know how your business is doing. So Peter explained everything to me, and I said, okay, I'll look into that. They introduced me to Social Enterprise Scotland, and before I knew it, I started the first cafe. And because it's a social enterprise, everybody that you meet wants to listen to you, because you are trying to change something, you're trying to do something. So we got our first cafe in Cambuslang at the CTEC building. When we approached them, the boss there was like, where have you been all this time? I said, yeah, I was looking for a place. I didn't have money to rent a cafe. He said, no, you're not going to pay. We're giving you 1 year free. Because of the impact that you're bringing in there. He gave us the place for free for the first year, and we started our cafe. First of all, I started the cafe as a box cafe, because I found out that there's a need for warm, healthy meals around Cambuslang. Is a little bit deprived, and the poverty, the food poverty around there is really, really high. So I talked about it with the boss at the CTEC building, and he said, okay, you can come in here and you can try to give the food out, but you must make money. Because all I want to do is just to change something. He said, but you must make money. I said, okay, I will try, find a way to make something so we can at least run the place. So we started off as a box cafe, where we made people put in what they think the food is worth. So they started putting in money, but some people were, not really putting what the food is worth in the box. So we decided to change the model so we could get money to fund the cafe. We created a voucher system where we gave vouchers to the local food bank, to the council social services, the homeless unit, and to the Job Center Plus and the GPs, because these are the people that really know the people, that can identify people that need warm meals. So then we started selling the food. We started, getting contracts from the council to make catering. We started getting wedding bookings. We started, the business just started growing. So we're having enough money to fund the voucher scheme, because the business was doing well. And in 2020, the pandemic came. Yeah, we had to shut down, and everything was like gone. But I said, no, we can't just shut down. This is where we are needed. So there was opportunities for funding to cook meals and, you know, to do anything. I said, okay, we'll do something. I approached Lanarkshire District and Volunteer Group, where they said, okay, we can collaborate with them to cook warm meals for people that are shielding during the pandemic. At the end of the day, we ended up cooking 5,500 meals for the vulnerable people between May and July of last year. And that ended up the Prime Minister's Point of Light Award, which we are really, really proud of. And during the pandemic, we made profit as well, because while we were making the meals, we were able to pay ourselves through that time. We were able to pay the cafe. We were able to buy new stuff for our cafe to develop our business, and we started a new food bank project as well. So social entrepreneurship is not something that is how can I put it, that is the worst way to make business. It is difficult to start. It is really difficult because, you know, you don't have investors that are looking for profits and all that. So it is hard to start. But if you have the right model and you know what is really needed in the community that you want to serve, you can really strive in it. Out of Africa, UK has now gone on to, we are planning to open the second cafe, and we are looking to get our food on the shelves as well. So we are growing, and we have the freedom to explore human kindness and efficiency by, you know, allowing people that have never been employed, that are maybe disabled, that are from ethnic minority background. You know, we give them the opportunity to come in and work and try to, you know, develop themselves. And the desire for us to change something is becoming a reality while making money as well. We intend to grow. We're looking at other things like creating spices and mixes for Afro-Caribbean food. And the thing is really looking good. And I'll say thank you to people from University of Western Scotland and Peter McGee from Vassland for making this possible, you know, so more people can really have the idea of doing business in this way, this model of business, because it is really, really self-rewarding. I mean, I feel good to know that I'm doing something good and at the same time making a living for myself. I think that's the best business model. I don't want to take much of your time, but maybe you can check us out on Instagram or Facebook and stuff. Out of Africa, UK, and the cafe is in the community cafe. Hopefully, you can get to come in to a Bridgeton Cafe or a Campbelltown Cafe or a Lanarkshire Cafe in the future to try our meals. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, and we'll certainly come back to the students if they've got any questions after Peter and Brian's talk. So I'll now hand you over to Brian and Peter, who's going to talk about how you can actually access the wider services around social enterprise support.
Peter, would you like to go first?
Yeah, not a problem. Right. If I can just work out how to do this. Hold on, we'll see how we go. Peter McGee, I'm one of the development officers at Voluntary Action South Lanarkshire, and what I'm going to do is just give you a wee bit of background to what Voluntary South Lanarkshire is in terms of a third sector interface and the support that we can give to yourselves as individuals around setting up a social enterprise, or what support is available to you. So Voluntary Action South Lanarkshire is one of 35 TSIs in Scotland. Now, a TSI is a third sector interface which is an organisation that supports the third sector in all its guises. So from social enterprises, charities, large and small. So we're talking from large national organisations right down to guides and brownie trips and everything in between. So some of the support that we can give to the voluntary sector is around sort of volunteering. It's maybe going back to what David was saying about volunteering opportunities within social enterprises. So a lot of the organisations that we support have volunteering opportunities, not only in terms of at the coalface, as David said, where you're actually doing the delivery, but also in the management and the governance of these organisations. So they're always looking for people with particular skills and expertise to develop these organisations going forward around the board structure and the management. We can offer organisational development, so through training opportunities, networking around that. We are a community planning partner, so we sit with other community planning partners like the NHS and the local authority, where we give the voice of the sector at these partnership meetings, and also sort of feedback anything that comes from a strategic or a policy level around that, so that we can better represent the needs of the community at sort of the tables with the power and sort of the power brokers. As Mr. T has explained and has come up with, unfortunately, organisations can't run on fresh air. So we look at funding opportunities that may be there and becoming a bit more sustainable. A social enterprise model is very similar to a traditional business. So we look at income generation as our opportunities for procurement or winning contracts from local government, NHS or other partners that may be out there, so that we can look at a more sustainable model so that groups aren't reliant on funding going forward. There is multiple forms in terms of how social enterprises are set up in terms of the legal structure, so we can give a bit of support around the governance around that. And what's also good is in terms of our networking. We have access to a number of different organisations running in their organisations and delivering services locally. Within our website, we have the locator tool, which is a sort of a cross between an A to Z and a sort of what's on guide for the voluntary sector in South Lanarkshire. So it lists all the organisations that we are aware of in the localities in South Lanarkshire, but also the services they are providing from that. So to give you a wee bit of background into the support that we can give around social enterprise and the journey that you can take sort of through that and with our support, we are always at the end of an email or the end of a phone. There's no sort of daft questions. We'll answer anything, and if we don't know, we can normally find someone that can and sort of point you in the right direction. So we can support from just having the initial idea that you think there's maybe a service that needs to be put in place, or an enterprise or an organisation that needs to be put in place to meet a particular need within the community. And as we said, that can be community of interest or a geographical community. So we can sit in and look at developing the idea into a fully fledged project and sort of see, is there other models of good practice out there that we can tie in on, or can we develop this? So we said about sort of the research sort of side of things. Is there other organisations out there maybe doing similar services that you can tie up with? Is there places that we can tie in terms of networking and seeing if there's organisations or people out there who share your drive and your ambition to take something forward? After that, if you decide you want to take it forward, then we can look at the governance sort of support and the legal structures around setting up your organisation so that it's best for you. It can be quite daunting and it can be quite dry in terms of talking about different legal structures for organisations and what governance you need to be put in place to support that business. So it can be very confusing in terms of all the different acronyms and all the different ways that you can put it together. But we are there sort of throughout the journey that you take, so that you know that you're getting the right information and the right advice to make that informed decision to take forward. We can support you in terms of funding that is available for social enterprises. Depending on the model you take would depend on what income or what grants or funding mechanisms we can use to support you sort of through that stage, whether that is ongoing development of the idea that you have, or sort of the seed-com set up funding. Everybody needs access to maybe a laptop or ongoing sort of core costs and set up costs to get the initiative off the ground and let people know that you're here and the services you are developing. But we can also look at it in terms of support around tendering for contracts, looking to see who your suppliers would be and how we can support you to win those contracts and look at a more sustainable income and income generation model around that, so that you're not becoming reliant on grant funding. What's great about grant funding is once you get it, yeah, it's great, you've got it maybe for another 3 years, but they will not necessarily fund the same thing over and over and over again, so you always have to develop and look at new ways to access different areas of funding. What we can also do is, if you want to take another step forward, or you want to get your idea sort of down in paper so that you can approach different partners, perhaps looking at collaborative bids, so you're not just doing it on your own, also just in terms of expanding the services you're providing. We can offer business support and advice in terms of business planning templates, so that you can have a business plan to put you forward, and you have the information and the knowledge to take that forward. So you're looking at your stakeholders, you're looking at who your customers are going to be and the communities that you're going to be working in. It also looks at sort of the threats that would maybe come along in setting up an organisation going forward. We also have good networks both locally and nationally into different partnerships. So whether that is you're looking to partner or collaborate with local organisations in the local communities to meet the needs. There may be organisations out there already doing great work, but you want to approach them to do other services or see where your service can fit in, but also nationally and internationally in terms of the social enterprise movement. David went into the figures in terms of how many social enterprises there is in South Lanarkshire and also at a Scottish network level. So we can give you access to these national support organisations and national organisations that are providing support and information for the social enterprise sort of network going forward, and how you can fit in to that and the work that they are doing. So that's a sort of whistle stop tour in terms of what we can do to support social enterprises. Like everybody at the moment, our team is working from home, so the best way to contact us is either through the email or through the website. We are on social medias as well, so you can look us up from that. Brian, I think it's over to you. If I can just stop sharing now.
Thanks, Peter. That was great. I'll see if I can share mine now. There we go. Please let me know if you can all see that. Put a hand up, do what you can. Hopefully you can anyway. Right, so enjoying the session, hopefully. Okay, so we've heard a wee bit about the stuff that's going on out in the social enterprise world, out in the communities, out in the local areas where people like Mr. T are doing some fantastic work, and the support agencies are in there, where Peter's working, identifying these startup social enterprises and where we can support them as well. But I want to talk a wee bit just now about the stuff that's going on within further and higher education specifically. So my name is Brian McEwen, and I work with Young Enterprise Scotland. Some of you might have heard of us, I don't know, but we do a lot of enterprise education programs across the schools, colleges and universities. I used to operate the Bridge to Business program, which is our college-based program, and that's delivered mainly in FE, but we're moving slightly into HE as well through some activities that we're doing with social enterprises. All right, so the first question should come up on your phones just now. Would you consider a career working within a social enterprise? Some of you are quick off the mark. Some of you might already work for a social enterprise. If I recall to, say 20 odd years ago when I graduated, social enterprise wasn't really something we were aware of. You'd heard of charities, of course, but social enterprise maybe not so much. Whereas nowadays, it seems to be a lot more apparent for young people and college and university graduates to be thinking about the opportunities that a career in social enterprise might present itself. Okay, so that's interesting. An overwhelming majority of you would consider a career in that area there. How many of you now, having heard from the coalface and understanding a wee more about your ethical careers week, how many of you would think about starting your own business? All right, interesting. We've got some numbers coming up here. Brilliant. Okay, so some of you are in the middle there. Not sure my idea is good enough. The good old Scottish mentality of imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon. Always like that. It's not sure your idea is good enough. Not knowing where to start. Those are the two overwhelming majorities there. So interesting to see that when it's that. Let's move on. Okay. Next question. How important do you think, you've heard a wee bit there from Peter about those factors that are helping a social enterprise. How important do you think the following would be for a social enterprise or an entrepreneur? You can use the sliding scale, 0 to the left being not very important and 10 to the right being what you think is very important. You can slide your scale up to that as you see fit. Okay, a couple of these are answering now. The reason I like Mentimeter as well, because it's interactive, it shows you're all listening to me, hopefully, but it's also evidence here. This is good evidence that you can send back to your colleges and your universities to say, by the way, folks, this is where we really need to learn. We need to understand things like, how do we access grants? How do we access our customers? Those are the things that are important to us if we're thinking about setting up our own social enterprise. All right. And like I said, this correlates to the stuff that Mr. T had been through himself, and Peter is providing these kind of services there to support social entrepreneurs. These aren't difficult things for us to provide information to and provide support and guidance to for our up and coming social entrepreneurs. Brilliant, thanks for that. So we talked a wee bit about finance. And where can we look to for that finance? And we've got some examples where I know of in the FE and HE sector where we can get access to the finance and capital we need to grow our social enterprise startup business. Public sector funding is there. There's loads of grants and loads of funds available for anybody to access. And just because you happen to be at university or college or even school, it doesn't extract you from being able to apply for that money. Competitions, you may have heard of Converge. They're one of the sort of startup competitions within the HE sector. Bridge to Business run a number of competitions as well. We've got the Social Innovators Challenge. We've done the Bridge to Business grant for a good number of years. And a lot of those were used to set up social businesses. You may have heard of a terrific company called Sweet, which are doing recycled, I think it's grass wheat materials to make drinks bottles, and that was first funded through Edinburgh College British to Business grant, and they moved on from there to Converge, they moved on to Scottish Edge, and they moved on to now, you know, trading as a standalone business, being very successful. Now that's the spark, that's the initial seed. 50 quid or 100 quid is all we gave her to develop a prototype. And from that prototype grew this business, and that business has really been very active in the Scottish ecosystem now. So it's great to see that. There's other areas you can get access to funding, trusts and foundations, and the philanthropic funding that could also be available to you too. So and other people like the startup loans companies, and there's banks. So you've got a lot of challenger banks that only focus on social and ethical businesses. They only want to finance those kinds of businesses. And therefore they're meeting a demand within their marketplace. So Trados, for example, are a Dutch bank, they're operating over here now. So there's lots of other places. People are now more aware of the fact that ethical business and social business also needs to be catered for, and the governments are aware of that too now. Maybe they weren't so much 20 years ago, but now it's a major part of their economic development plans and recovery. Startup advice, these things are always available to social enterprises, but specifically within the college and the universities, there's probably going to be a lot of startup support. UWS and all universities will have a startup hub or some kind of entrepreneurial academy or some kind of incubator space that you can get access to, and you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be social enterprises already within that startup hub. So accessing those from a first point of call would be ideal for you if you've got your social enterprise idea. And if you're that person that's thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure my idea is good enough, go and speak to those in-house university or college-based support networks, and they'll tell you your idea is good. You know, you've got to go out there and prove it, because it's your customers that will actually tell you whether or not that's a good idea by coming to you for their service, for your services. Business Gateway, you've probably heard of. There's regional offices all around. First Port are a great organisation. We work very closely with them with that Social Innovators Challenge, and they focus on social enterprise startup support. Community enterprise in Scotland. There's all sorts of membership organisations that you can get access to as well. So you're not going to be short of getting some good advice and startup expertise across that sector. But I would suggest you start with your university support channels in the first place. Okay. Customers. So this would apply to all businesses. You know, that's the beauty of social enterprise. It is, you know, as David said, it's that double outcome measurement, but the key thing it is an enterprise. You got to find out who your customers are, how you get access to them. So you're thinking, if you're a business student, you're thinking about the market to mix. You're thinking about how you can get out there to your customers, regardless of what your actual business model, service, or product happens to be. You're having to answer these questions as part of your business understanding anyway. So those are the things you have to apply within a social enterprise. But bear in mind as well, guys, the fact that you've got business skills and digital skills, these kinds of skills are the skills that a lot of social enterprises are needing. So you become employable by having knowledge of how you can get out to a market and how you can go and find customers. So bear that in mind as well as you're going on your early career journeys. Okay. Another big challenge for social enterprises is location. Mr. T told us there he got access to that kitchen for free. You'll find that that's going to be a lot of the cases where you can get access to services or other products that might be out there for you to take advantage of. You know, if you don't have to pay for an office space, then that's fantastic. But we're also in this situation where we can work remotely now. We can work from home. I've been working from home for the last 14-15 months. My productivity hasn't gone down at all. I hope my ability to teach hasn't been diminished at all. Hopefully not, and maybe it's been enhanced because of the technology we have now as well. And I'm hoping your learning's also been enhanced through that basis too. So if it applies itself in the education sector, it can probably apply itself in the social enterprise sector too. And you've probably got friends or colleagues that you can buddy up with and maybe go and rent a room or some kind of co-working space together. there's plenty of those opportunities around. I saw an advertisement recently for a co-working space for £100 a week in Glasgow City Centre. I used to pay £60 a month for a co-working space for a hot desk in a rather nice part of town as well. So, you know, these places are not inaffordable. You can go and find them, and that's where you can get access to other support services and other people that you can get inspiration from too. All right. Yeah, any other routes to social enterprise? You should be able to answer this on your phone as well. I'm thinking about time wise, so we've maybe got a lot of time, not a lot of time to cover it, but if you do have any other routes to social enterprise support, or put them in the chat.
For each.
Yeah, you can go into the community and find people to support you there. Absolutely. Go and get inspiration from crowdfunding. Excellent. Yeah, didn't mention that. That's an interesting area to look into, for sure, to get access to finance. Any others? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. TSI. I'm not sure what TSI is.
That was me.
TSI, Peter, tell me.
It's the third sector interface. That's us, basically.
Third sector, sorry, apologies. Right. Third sector interface. Yeah, acronyms, see, we don't know all the acronyms. Just Enterprise, very good. Yeah, that's a competition between Firstport and CIS. They're running that. Excellent. Good stuff. Okay, last couple of slides just to keep us in there. So I mentioned all those, Peter mentioned a lot of those national-based organisations that are out there just now that are there to support our social enterprise sector. Here's just a snapshot of a few of them that can help you. But all of these organisations are doing very, very important work. All of them have a big impact on what's going on, and quite a few of them have got an impact within the FVHE sector too. So look those guys up. Take a snapshot of that on your phone and go and look them up. That's some advice to you for now. All right. Thank you all for your time. If you do have any questions, you can chuck them in here or put them on the chat. And I hope I haven't taken up too much time from the rest of the session. It's been enjoyable to listen to everybody, and thanks for the opportunity for us to share as well.
Thanks, Brian and Peter. If you do have any questions, feel free just to unmute yourself, or if you would like to pose a question in the chat.
Hi, I have a question for Peter, if that's okay.
On you go, Natalie.
So